Hey, what's going on? Michael Mosley here at RetroGameCon 2015 in Syracuse, New York. And I'm joined today by Antoine Baker.
What's up, Kate?
And you're showing off a pretty retro-looking game called
Pretty Kitty Fuzzy.
Pretty Kitty Fuzzy.
The name is, yes, it's absurd as you think it sounds, but it's all in good fun. Pretty Kitty Fuzzy is a 2D side-scrolling shooter that we're creating. Basically, we're going to release it in late spring of 2016. The game upon release would be $5, and we're going to launch a Kickstarter for it in mid-January. It's basically my labor of love to get into game design. I feel like as a Syracuse native, seeing the city in the decline and like loss of industry, I figured creating a video game and encouraging others, if they're interested in creating video games, to do the same would help create an industry here in Syracuse.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about Pretty Kitty and what the game's about?
Well, Pretty Kitty Fuzzy is basically, the idea is based off my actual cat named Fuzzy. Well, pretty much the idea of the game is, if going back to a backstory, it's about an evil snake witch named Anguish. She was once herself a senshi until she was possessed by the Dark Core, which pretty much the Dark Core, it corrupted her, and she ended up going on this warpath of defeating every senshi in the known universe. After she gets all their life force and harness it into a crystal, she tries to harness the crystal's powers, and the crystal shatters, sending the energies to Earth. So she goes to try to search young girls to see if the energies went to the young girls. Unbeknownst to her, it goes into a lazy house cat named Fuzzy. So that's pretty much her nemesis, so to speak. So it's a complete parody of Sailor Moon, because I grew up, that was one of my gateway animes, and it made me appreciate the Japanese culture and video games a lot more. So basically I was like, I'm just going to do a parody of Sailor Moon. The original game that I created was called Super Sentai Kitty, but I got a cease and desist order, and that wasn't fun. So so I'm sitting up there like, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I still want to make a cat game, but then I wanted to make something that was easier to like push out there and to develop. So a 2D side-scrolling shooter was one, and something involving the cat itself, Fuzzy, would be the second part of that. So everything just went on from there, and here I am.
You said it's a 2D side-scroller. Can you tell us a little bit about the gameplay and how it works in with the magical cat girl thing?
Oh, sure. It plays more. Well, I thought it was perfect to do it as a side-scrolling shooter, to play on the whole magical girl flying around trying to save the world type routine.
Right.
I thought doing that would give the game a sense of whimsy. On top of that, for this 2D side-scrolling shooters, I remember as a kid, my mom used to be a general manager at the store called Hills here. Haha, for all of you who are Syracuse or know about Hills, I am that old. Pretty much, there was a game, Raiden, and it used to be right next to Street Fighter 2, and every time I would run out of tokens getting beat up in Street Fighter 2, I would go over to Raiden and see the attract mode, and I would love watching the attract mode for it, watching the game, how all the shooting elements and everything takes place, how you have to move around and everything, and I was just so enamored with it. And there was one day I was watching it, and there's some stranger like put in a quarter and he let me play, and I fell in love with the genre ever since. I've more so played more fighting games down the road, but I'll never forget that my first game that I played was a side-scrolling shooter, like for an arcade game, side-scrolling shooter. So, it's just me kind of like doing that and paying it forward. But yeah, it's something I've always wanted to do, and I just felt like it was the right time to do it, and I had the right theme. And there's a bunch of influences that pushed me to make something like this. So if you're familiar with like Gradius, Raiden, or Defender, the game will incorporate many of those elements in there. Like for example, Fuzzy will later on, we didn't do it in this build, but in the later builds, Fuzzy will have a screen wipe ability, which I think it's useful for people who feel overcrowded, and we're going to have a really hard difficulty called Bullet Heck, where there's just things coming at you and you're just going to dodge and shoot everything. And then there's 80s Child, where you die in one hit, but you have 3 lives, and there's only 3 continues. So you have to be very meticulous about how you go about the game. So, and then there's normal and easy, which basically for more casual players. So.
Okay. So you mentioned like one power-up was the screen swipe. Will Fuzzy Kitty be getting anything else? Anything that'll put her on par with more games like Raiden where you can have more than just one projectile going at a time, where you can have
Right.
a spray?
Basically, there's going to be different levels of your power-ups that you enhance. It's when you shoot at a consecutive amount of enemies in a row without taking any hits, you end up getting a power-up. All the power-ups will be pastries and like cupcakes and like candies and everything.
Nice.
So I think it's aesthetically pleasing where you can know, like, it gives you positive reinforcement. Junk food, good. Bullets, bad.
Right.
So that's pretty much what I was really going for, and I think it'll gravitate for a lot of people. Like we got a really big reception for the game. Like everybody loved the character, and everybody seems to, when they sit down and play the game, everybody likes. Like right now, it's a demo mode and it's showing the stage 1 boss. So it's a giant evil crow. So basically, he's just shooting fireballs and stuff at everybody. But then there's another power-up that gives Fuzzy, when you hold the button, instead of just mashing it, you hold it and it gives a rapid fire. Then there's a rapid stream where basically you get a Cupid-like character and you get a laser that you can shoot around there. And then she also gets like homing pies that just search like other enemies like as a special weapon and like hits them and kills them. So.
What kind of enemies can you expect? We see the giant bird as a boss. Like, what other bosses or enemies can we expect?
Well, there's like all the monsters in here, the game. I wanted to appeal to like also a child crowd, so every monster or and boss in the game is referred to as meanies, or bosses are big meanies. Nice. So just give it like that childlike whimsy for it. You'll be seeing like witches and krakens. And Anguis, the snake witch, will be the final boss of the game. You'll also be you'll be seeing like more stuff that are like parodies from like other animes or like different types of tropes that a lot of people will be surprised. I'll let that be a surprise for everybody.
Okay, so is Fuzzy Kitty going to be a single player only, or is there be a co-op mode?
We're thinking about incorporating a co-op mode, so like people can actually help out and like play and join in on the craziness. Because a lot of people like tandem like gameplay like that, and some Gradius did that as some of the arcade versions of it where you had tandem gameplay. So it's like, we have this and we got that, and it adds a layer of complexity to how you approach levels, especially like if you're trying to play on harder levels. Having a partner that has your back kind of helps you out in that regard. Instead of doing it like, one guy goes and then he dies and the other guy goes. I don't think that's really intuitive like the old games used to do, because it's like, what's the point? You might as well play by yourself. Yeah. So having that, having that other person with you right then and there, like makes a big difference. And I think it also like I like social aspects in gaming. Like I like people to come together. So that's what I want to do with Pretty Kitty Fuzzy. You can also have a single player experience, but if you have a friend, it brings you both together and you just both have a really awesome time with a silly, lighthearted story with silly, lighthearted characters. So. All
right. Well, Antoine, the game definitely fits the retro feel. it definitely has the old school feel of the games, like you said, with Raiden and whatnot.
Right. Yeah. We have the chiptune music done by a musician. He does chiptune music. He's JKLOL. We also, I'm also working with other sprite artists. One's named Eli, one's name's Brennan. They work remotely with me on different parts of the U.S. We also have a programmer named Carlos. He's from Mexico, and he actually helps with some of the programming in the game. Well, he does most of the programming. He's quite a trooper, actually. He's been holding it down for us on that front. So we're gonna hold a Kickstarter for it in mid-January. And you can follow us at NinjaGate Studios on Facebook, or NinjaGate Studio on Twitter, or you can help find us Pretty Kitty Fuzzy on Facebook and just follow us and see where it goes.
All right. You can definitely find those links in the description below. All right, Antoine, thanks for the interview. The game looks pretty cool.
Thank you.
I hope you guys have a successful Kickstarter.
Thank you.
And, can't wait to see more of Pretty Kitty Fuzzy in 2016.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the con.
You too.
All right.